In tonight's news edition, the US and 6 allies call on Russia to cease attacks on Syrian opposition and civilians and express concern at its military buildup in Syria. Moscow denies targeting civilian infrastructure. The UN Secretary General urges Libya at a high-level United Nations meeting in New York to accept a negotiated framework that charts a new political future for the country. And an adventurous British pilot is embarking on a 13,000-mile solo flight from Britain to Australia, following in the footsteps of British pilot Amy Johnson, who completed the flight back in 1930. Hello and welcome to the news. The United States and 6 allies called on Russia to cease what they said were attacks on the Syrian opposition and civilians and expressed deep concern over Russia's military buildup in Syria. In a joint statement, the United States, France, Germany, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Britain criticized Russian airstrikes, which they said did not target Daesh terrorist group. The statement said those military actions constitute a further escalation and will only fuel more extremism and radicalization. Earlier in the day, Moscow said its latest strikes in Syria have hit 12 Daesh targets. An amateur video of the aftermath of the Russian airstrikes over Idlib and Hama was published online, purporting to show rising smoke over the area surrounding Khan Sheikhoun, a town near Ma'arrat and Nu'man in Idlib. Another video showed 2 large plumes of smoke rising from what it said to be the town of Latamne in Hama. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, however, said Daesh had no presence in the western and northern areas that were struck, and that the airstrikes were targeting rival insurgent groups fighting Daesh. Elsewhere, the observatory said Daesh attacked Syrian government-held areas in the eastern city of Deir ez-Zor and an airbase south of the city. The Russian Defense Ministry has also denied accusations by an opposition Turkmen group that its airstrikes in Syria have killed dozens of civilians. Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov refuted claims civilian infrastructure has come under attack, saying to avoid hitting civilian targets, the Russian aviation strikes are determined only after thorough reconnaissance and confirmation of the presence of Daesh terrorists. The Defense Ministry said its warplanes have flown 18 sorties describing targets in western and northern Syria, including a command post and a communications center in the province of Aleppo, a militant field camp in Idlib and a command post in Hama.
Террористической инфраструктуре, определение точных координат и подтверждение присутствия там боевиков по другим каналам.
A separate joint statement by the US-led coalition had said a total of 28 airstrikes were conducted in the past 24 hours on Daesh targets in Syria and Iraq. 20 of the attacks were in Iraq, with 6 of them concentrated near the city of Al-Hawija. Airstrikes also were carried out near 8 other Iraqi cities, hitting tactical units, vehicles, fighting positions and other Daesh assets, according to the statement. The 8 strikes in Syria included 6 near the city of Hasaka, hitting tactical units, vehicles and equipment. In Iraq, Shiite cleric Ayatollah Ali Sistani has called for the expansion of the global war against Daesh. His call during Friday prayer today, broadcast on national television, followed the Prime Minister's statement yesterday welcoming Russian airstrikes against the terrorist group on Iraqi soil. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Paris today to meet the leaders of France, Germany and Ukraine for talks about Ukraine and Syria. Putin met with French President François Hollande for more than an hour, after which an aide to Hollande said that he tried to narrow differences over Syria. Hollande laid out France's conditions for supporting Russian intervention, which include a halt to strikes on groups other than Daesh and Al-Qaeda, protections for civilians and a commitment to a political transition that would remove President Bashar al-Assad.
Ouais.
Je crois que tu en as déjà fait des plans
Non, je vais en faire maintenant.
Ok, j'en aurais Je crois que tu en as déjà fait des plans déjà.
Non, je vais en faire maintenant.
Ok.
Over to the occupied West Bank. Clashes continued between Israeli occupation forces and Palestinians in Jerusalem and Hebron over violations of Al-Aqsa Mosque. Clashes also erupted in the West Bank city of Hebron, where Israeli soldiers fired tear gas at dozens of Palestinians and sprayed them with skunk water. Palestinians said they fear that increasing visits by Jewish groups to the Jerusalem Holy Compound are eroding Muslim religious control there. Israel has pledged to maintain Muslim prayer rights at Al-Aqsa, but, citing security concerns, has frequently banned young Muslim men from entering the area. Israeli police has only allowed entrance to Muslim men over 40 and to women of all ages. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon urged Libya at a high-level United Nations meeting in New York to accept a negotiated framework that charts a new political future for the country. The UN deal handed to Libya's warring factions last month calls for a one-year united national government with the current elected parliament as the legislature and another chamber as a consultative body. Western powers won the UN deal to resolve the conflict that has allowed radical jihadists to gain ground in the chaos and smugglers to profit by shipping migrants and asylum seekers from Libya's coast to Europe.
A number of whom are with us today. Libya has of the United States. You have the floor, Secretary Kerry. Thank you.
We come together to endorse the progress that Libya's leaders have made in negotiating a political framework, the ability of extremists filling a vacuum.
For the first time since the revolution of 2011, Libyans have before them a negotiated, inclusive and workable political roadmap for the remainder of the political transition process. No agreement is perfect, but this document will help Libya move beyond the chaos and toward the creation of a stable and democratic state with a clear legal framework.
Loyalist Yemeni troops and Gulf Arab forces seized control of the Arabian side of the strategic Bab el-Mandeb Strait, linking the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden from Houthi fighters. Residents on the Yemeni side of the strait reported strikes and shelling by warships in support of a ground thrust, and troops loyal to President Abdrabbu Mansour Hadi were seen in armored vehicles in the area. Yemeni Prime Minister Khalid Bahah, who returned to Aden last month after months of exile in Saudi Arabia, confirmed the victory on his Twitter account. 6 months of war in Yemen have raised fears for the security of oil supplies through Bab el-Mandeb, a main thoroughfare for vessels heading for the United States or Europe from Asia or the Gulf. Migrants fleeing conflict and wars in the Middle East and Africa continue to cross between Serbia and Croatia. Thousands of migrants yesterday formed a long queue outside the registration center in Preševo, a small town on the Serbian side of the border with Macedonia. Scores of people continue to arrive at the frontier, all waiting to make the next stage in their journey towards the European Union. Serbia has been busing migrants from the town towards its border with Croatia, as police said that the number of people in and around the camp had exceeded 3,000. A joint action coordinated by Europol and Interpol, law enforcement bodies from 9 different countries, including officers from Germany, Austria, Slovenia and Bosnia, have been interviewing migrants on their journey to the European Union to try to understand how the flow of migrants moves across Europe. The Oregon gunman who carried out an execution-style massacre at a U.S. college classroom had a cache of 13 weapons, body armor and ammunition, according to U.S. authorities who are seeking a motive for the shooting. It was the worst mass killing this year in the United States when 9 people were murdered at a community college in southern Oregon. The shooter was later killed by police and was identified as Chris Harper Mercer. Oregon police are investigating the motives behind the crime. This report has more.
More details are emerging of the man suspected of opening fire into a classroom full of students at a college in Oregon. The 26-year-old lived in an apartment at this Winchester complex just a short distance from the Umpqua Community College in Roseburg. A law enforcement source named the suspect as Chris Harper Mercer. Reuters hasn't been able to independently confirm the shooter's name, but neighbors said they recognized him from online photos.
Just from pictures, just recognizing him. That's it. Just he's outside playing with the kids, or if they're his kids or whose kids they are.
9 people died in the shooting, another 7 were wounded before police killed the gunman. Other neighbors spoke of their shock that someone living in their midst could have been responsible.
It's just weird to think that anyone could, and then especially like a neighbor, you know, like.
Hundreds turned out for a vigil for the victims in Roseburg hours after the bloodshed. It's a small town with about 20,000 inhabitants, some of whom knew the students well.
One of my very close family friends, actually I consider her my sister, she got shot in the stomach today. She's okay though. She lost a kidney and she's going to be fine.
I knew there was a set of triplets, the McGowan brothers that were there, and I know that they're okay right now, but Rand lost his pinky.
A user on an internet dating site posted a picture which appeared to be the suspected gunman. He describes himself as a 26-year-old man looking for a woman, not religious but spiritual, a teetotaler living with his parents.
An adventurous British pilot is embarking on an extraordinary 13,000-mile solo flight from Britain to Australia. The pilot is following in the footsteps of Amy Johnson, the pioneering British aviator who became the first woman to fly solo from Britain to Australia back in 1930. 53-year-old Tracy Curtis Taylor set off in her open cockpit 1942 Boeing Stearman Spirit of Artemis aircraft from Hampshire yesterday. She is set to fly across 23 countries, and her route will take her across Europe and the Mediterranean to Jordan, over to Arabian Desert, across the Gulf of Oman and onto Pakistan and Asia, before finally finishing up in Sydney early in 2016.
Oh, look, this is a terrific privilege to be in this position, because I'm in awe of what Amy did in 1930. When I read her own account of what she did, I almost break into a sweat. She nearly killed herself several times over. I mean, it was stacked against her, so the fact that she even survived it was really remarkable.
To the world of glamour and style. Issey Miyake's Spring-Summer 2016 collection has taken fashion to a whole new level at the Paris Fashion Week. The ready-to-wear collection is made through a unique baking process to create futuristic, multicolored garments. The fashion house is using a new kind of fabric, which is creating using a special type of glue. Named Botanical Delights, the collection was inspired by tropical flora in the jungle. Models wore jackets with matching tops and skirts sporting fringes and details made of plant-based paper. Colors range from electric blues and turquoises, yellows and browns, and dotted with different shades of greens. Boxing legend Muhammad Ali was honored again for his lifetime of achievement, this time by magazine Sports Illustrated that renamed an award in his honor. Former Ali boxing opponent George Foreman was among several former boxers who attended the event at the Muhammad Ali Center in Kentucky, where the magazine changed the name of the Sportsman Legacy Award to the Muhammad Ali Legacy Award. Sports Illustrated put Ali on this week's cover of its magazine for the 39th time. Only former basketball player Michael Jordan has graced the cover with 50 appearances.
Well, this is a great honor not only for Muhammad Ali, but it's a great honor for boxing. Finally.
Real Madrid paid homage to Cristiano Ronaldo as their outright leading scorer, even though the official statistics show he has yet to overhaul former Spain striker Raúl. Ronaldo's next chance to officially break the record is Sunday's La Liga match at Atletico Madrid. He needed a mere 308 matches across 7 seasons to equal Raúl's tally of 323, amassed in 741 games over 16 years.
De la historia del club, el club más grande del mundo, y poder batir a mi amigo Raúl y al fallecido Alfredo Di Stefano.
Now, the weather outlook. Fair in many regions tonight, with a slight chance for rain in the country's south. As for tomorrow, moderate weather will prevail across much of the hilly areas, but it remains relatively hot across the barrier and the eastern plains. Winds will be northwesterly fresh. Hot weather is forecast for the Jordan Valley and the port city of Aqaba, with high temperatures expected to touch the 40-degree mark at the Dead Sea. Now, a look at the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To close our top stories once again. The US and 6 allies call on Russia to cease attacks on Syrian opposition and civilians and express concern at its military buildup in Syria. Moscow denies targeting civilian infrastructure. The UN Secretary General urges Libya at a high-level United Nations meeting in New York to accept a negotiated framework that charts a new political future for the country. And an adventurous British pilot is embarking on a 13,000-mile solo flight from Britain to Australia, following in the footsteps of British pilot Amy Johnson, who completed the flight back in 1930. And that's the end of tonight's news. My name is Rad Latouche. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good night.